After the very forceful discussion Jesus had had with the Pharisees and the Jews, where they both claimed to be from the Father, and the Pharisees tried to ridicule Jesus, but in the end took up stones to stone him, he left the temple and passed by. And John continues in chapter 9 saying, "And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which is translated sent. So he went and washed, and came back seeing. Therefore the neighbours, and those who previously had seen that he was blind, said, "Is not this he who sat and begged?" Some said, "This is he." Others said, "It is like him." And he said, "I am he." Therefore they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He answered and said, "A man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes, and said to me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and I received sight." Then they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I do not know." They brought the man, who formerly was blind, to the Pharisees. Now it was a Sabbath when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also asked him again how he had received his sight. And he said, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and I see." Therefore some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." Others said, "How can a man who is a sinner do such signs?" And there was a division among them. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together. We've read John chapter 9, verses 1 to 16. We have Jesus acting out the reality of the issue of the Pharisees. They were born blind, and they are still blind. When a person is born, they know nothing. They have to learn to recognize people, to walk, to talk, and to learn things in the world. And understanding and wisdom come with the experience of walking in the world. So Jesus has taken a man who was born blind, a mature man. So he's lived his whole life in darkness. The simplistic thinking of people is that if there's something wrong in our life, it's a punishment from God. So if this man was born blind, God is punishing him for sin. And the question that puzzles them is that who sinned? Is he suffering because of his parents' sin, because he was born blind, or did he actually sin himself before he was born in some way, so that his blindness is punishment for his own sin? But Jesus says no, neither proposition is correct. It was not that this man sinned or his parents sinned. He was born blind that the works of God should be revealed in him. God had a purpose for him to experience God, and he wouldn't have experienced God had he been born with sight. And so he was born blind, that he might have this experience with God. And this is the whole point of things that happen in our lives, that we might experience God's work in our lives. If everything was just hunky-dory all the time, then we wouldn't have to think about God at all, and we would never learn to experience God and know God. Jesus goes on, "I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day." He's declared that the Father sent him into this world, and he is working in this world even as the Father works. And the fact that it is the Sabbath, God works on every day, and so the Son of God works on every day. And he has various tasks to perform, one of which is to heal people. The main one, of course, is to declare the message of God. But the healings and miracles that he performs are his credentials, that he has the right to speak in the name of God. But not everybody will accept his credentials, as we see. He says, "The night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." So he's connecting back to John chapter 8, verse 12, where Jesus said, "I am the light of the world." The light leads to understanding. If you're in the darkness, then you have some experience of the world, but you can't appreciate its beauty. You can't see anything beyond the reach of your hands, and you see through your hands. But Jesus is the light of the world. He has come to give us understanding, to see the realities of this world. And so we have this acted out parable. He spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva. It was the interaction with the earth that would give this man light. He anointed the man's eyes and said, "Go wash in the pool Siloam." This pool is in the south of the city, the southern end of the lower city, the old city of David. He did what he was told and came back seeing. We are commanded to believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and we will be saved. That is, we must begin to trust him and obey him if we are to experience him. As this man went and washed, he came back seeing. Now, other people noticed the difference. They recognized him as the blind man, but obviously he could see. Is it truly him? He'd lived his whole life. They walked past him in the street frequently. And so some said, "Is not this he who sat and begged?" And others agreed with them. "Yes, it looks like him. It is him." And he affirmed, "I am the one who sat and begged. I am the one who was blind." This is a big mystery. How can this blind man see? The explanation was simple. Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, "Go to the pool of Siloam and wash." So I went, I did what he told me to do, and I can see. This is the mystery of faith. Those of us who have walked with the Lord Jesus, have done what he said, in interacting in the life and circumstances of our lives, have come to faith. We come to see that God has a plan and purpose in our lives. And we acknowledge that it was Jesus who instructed us and has given us this insight. Well, where is this Jesus? The man didn't know. We can't see Jesus, but we do know, when we have received our sight, that definitely things make much more sense now that we can see. And we do see the change he makes in other people's lives as well. They took him to the Pharisees, and he gave his testimony there. They didn't at this stage dispute that he'd been blind but now could see. But they were divided over what to think about what they observed. Some saying, "This man," that is, Jesus, "is not from God because he doesn't keep the Sabbath." Keeping the Sabbath is the key rule from the 10 Commandments, according to the Pharisees. It affects everything you do on the Sabbath day. And if you don't keep the Sabbath, then you're under God's curse. And they have carefully defined what you are allowed to do, so that if you break one of their rules, it's obvious you are under God's curse. Assuming, of course, their rules are correct. But then the issue of healing on the Sabbath hadn't arisen before, because nobody other than Jesus could do it. And so others counter, how can a person who is a sinner do such things that nobody else can do?